The Ben Garcia Show. Yeah. Best show in the land. Yup. Listen. Come and get your information from Ben Garcia. Get the latest on your quarterback, running backs, and receivers. Tune in, so any other show you don't need them. Any news that he giving out, please just believe him. Giving out the latest prediction and top-notch analysis. Wanna hear the truth, better have thick skin like callus. The latest move that your team just made can be damaging. The dudes ain't speaking no facts, they just be rambling. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show, go get the cameraman. Yeah. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show, go get the cameraman.
What is up? Welcome into yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day, however you're watching, however you're following, whether that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, for free on the iHeartRadio app, or you want to put a face to the voice and you are watching us on YouTube. We appreciate that as well. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and again, thank you so much for making us a part of your week, making us a part of your day. Happy New Year. We had an awesome 2023. We launched the Ben Garcia Show. Social medias did a bunch of numbers. It has been great. It has been awesome. Over all social media platforms, just millions of views altogether, and that was awesome, and that was amazing, and that is because of you, the viewer, the follower, the watcher, the listener, all of those things. Thank you so much. We will continue to roll strong in 2024. That is enough rambling and enough love letters to write to my audience. You guys know how much I appreciate you. Don't forget to continue to like, share, subscribe, and tell a friend about the Ben Garcia Show, or just keep it to yourself and you want all the smartest, hottest, best takes from the best opinionists on the sports market to yourself. I get that as well. Go ahead. Be a little selfish. That's okay. You can be a little selfish in life. A lot of things going on today on the Ben Garcia Show. We're going to talk a little bit about the Eagles and their struggles, the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to write a little bit of a love letter to Kyler Murray and warn the rest of the NFL on what is to come from that young man. We're going to talk some Cowboys, and I have a little bit to say about them as well. We saw them win, but I have a little bit of an opinion to share with the Dallas Cowboys that maybe I share with a lot of you. That is coming up later in the show, but until we get to those stories, I want to start right here. The NFL draft is still many, many months away, and I can be seen as one of those people that had said, even just last week, 2 weeks ago, if I were the Chicago Bears, I would absolutely look into trading out of the Justin Fields market and getting into the Caleb Williams market. Now, that was last week. That was 2 weeks ago. My whole thing in life, and I've learned this from numerous sports casters, numerous sports opinionists over the years, is if you stay with the same opinion just to stay with the same opinion, that's stupid. Loyalty, outside of being loyal to your wife and being loyal to your family, is mostly overrated. Teams aren't loyal to players. Businesses aren't loyal to employees. People have been laid off numerous times just this year alone. So loyalty is largely overrated. And so when it comes to sports opinions, I'm going to change my opinion sometimes. And Caleb Williams, I tried to hold on. I tried to stay on the roller coaster that was Caleb Williams. At the beginning of the year, I was all in on go get Caleb Williams. Be really, really bad this year and go get the next generational prospect since Andrew Luck and Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams. I'm out. I'm just out. It wasn't a great senior season for Caleb Williams, and I know I'll be seen as a hater from the Instagram, Twitter, YouTube scape where people just go on there and see someone that throws a ball really well and goes, we need that. He's so good. Have a little self-respect. Have a little bit of self-confidence in your team. It's just low sports self-esteem. Nothing has ever worked out, rarely in the NFL, by drafting out of complete and utter just desperation. It doesn't work out. Being desperate and drafting someone and hoping they change your franchise largely doesn't work out. And so that brings me to Caleb Williams. We saw what the USC did. His backup, Moody, I believe his name was. Again, I'm not going to act like I watched a ton of the Holiday Bowl. I'm more of a real semifinal college football guy, but I saw the highlights. I watched a decent amount of that game. It looked like a different team. And that's a good Louisville team. It's not a college football playoff team. It's not a New Year's Six Bowl team, but they made the ACC championship and they gave Florida State fits. So that's a good Louisville team, and USC blew them out of the water. What we saw last year with Tulane against USC, and I believe it was the Cotton Bowl. USC completely outmanned in that game. Tulane beat the brakes off of USC in that game. Caleb Williams was not a difference maker in that game. They lost to Tulane. And, he won the Heisman. You could go ahead and chop up a decent amount of that. He won the Heisman. He's awesome. The defense sucks, and I largely agreed with you. But at this point, with Caleb Williams, where do we draw the line? So when I see USC score a touchdown and they're out there saying, we're a team now. We play together. We're a team now. That was a shot at Caleb Williams. It was a complete and utter shot at Caleb Williams. And so the cards continued to get stacked against him. We saw it earlier in the year when his dad leaked that he might just stay in college, which is the stupidest thing. Whenever you see a player that is probably going to be the number one overall pick, they never stay in college. That talk never, you just look dumb when you do that. You're not staying in college. I don't care how much NIL money you can make. You want to know how much NIL money you can make? It's not as much in the NFL. And that's why people go. So when he was saying, his father was saying, hey, he might just stay in college. Like, okay, whatever. A lot of college players use that ploy, whatever. And then it was, well, he's going to ask for ownership of teams. It was, what? You're going to ask for a stake in ownership in which Tom Brady couldn't even get? The NFL shut that down for him. You're going to think you're going to get it now and you haven't played a snap in the NFL? Everyone telling him how awesome he is. Everyone just putting him up on this pedestal. We see guys like Nick Wright at one point putting him at the top of his quarterback hierarchy, going out and crying in the stands to his mother after a third loss on the season, which didn't signify anything more that wasn't already seen by USC. They were not getting in the Pac-12 championship game. They were not making a New Year's Six Bowl. They were not making the college football playoff. And instead of being with his team, he's in the sidelines, in the crowd, crying in his mother's arms, just right after the game is over. And then on top of that, not answering questions to the media after the game. And then later on in the week, saying that he just wants to go home and cry to his dog. He wants to go home and cry and eat ice cream and sit with his dog and watch shows. It's not a leader, guys. And if you're a quarterback in the NFL, you have to be a leader. You have to be a grown-up. Lamar Jackson is a grown-up. Patrick Mahomes, grown-up. Josh Allen, grown-up. You don't see those guys going into the stands, crying to their mothers after they lose the game. Patrick Mahomes, we saw earlier this week, got a little emotional. He wasn't crying. There wasn't a single tear that came out of his eyes. He was upset. Football's an emotional game. I get that. Finding his wife, his mom, bawling in the stands, that was weird. It's just weird. And then not speaking to the media at points in the season after they lose games. Then USC saying we're a team now after they score. Him asking for ownership of teams if he gets drafted, which we all knew was never going to happen. Him leaking, he just won't go to some teams. It's too many red flags. It's too many red flags. If you're a team desperate for a quarterback and you are just desperate to give this guy the sun, the moon, and the stars and everything in between, sure, draft Caleb Williams. I get it. Everyone needs a quarterback in this league. It's a quarterback-needy NFL. The quarterback play has never been worse. Check some of the teams that are starting quarterbacks this year. It's a lot of Jake Brownings and Joe Flacco's and Josh Dobbs this year. So I get it. You want to draft him, cool. But I'm completely changing my tune. If you're the Chicago Bears, go get Marvin Harrison Jr. If you're the Arizona Cardinals, you're sticking with Kyler Murray. If you're a team on the fence about drafting a quarterback, I would absolutely think you take a second look at what the Caleb Williams experience is going to bring to you. I'm going to spend just 5 minutes on this story. And full disclosure, I'm an Arizona sports fan. It's where my love for sports started. It's where me as a broadcaster started. It's what got me into the sports opinion space. So if I'm going to root for a team, I hardly really get into the full fanatic fan base like a lot of people do. The more fun way to consume sports is probably more as a fan and living and dying with them. But I watch every single Cardinals game every year. For those that don't know, I'm at Fox Sports in Phoenix. I work at the 9:10 a.m. station. I'm their executive producer. So part of my day job is consuming and watching all things Arizona sports. And over the past couple of years, teams and people, fans, and sports opinionists and broadcasters and personalities have put the beat down on Kyler Murray. And I'm only going to spend a couple of minutes on this. Kyler Murray is a top 8 quarterback in the NFL when he's fully supported. When he's not fully supported, he's still a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And we saw that yesterday against the Philadelphia Eagles. Kyler Murray did what Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, and Dak Prescott, all consensus top 10 quarterbacks, could not do yesterday. Dak Prescott's got CeeDee Lamb. Dak Prescott's got Jake Ferguson. Dak Prescott's got Tony Pollard. And Dak Prescott's got a pretty darn good offensive line. Josh Allen's still got Stephon Diggs. James Cook has been good recently, and this is his best offensive line in years, although still not elite, his best offensive line in years. Tua Tagovailoa, don't even get me started. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane has been awesome this year. Raheem Mostert's been really good. Good offensive line, and the best coach out of all those other quarterbacks that I just named in Mike McDaniel. Kyler Murray yesterday did something none of those 3 quarterbacks did. He went into Philadelphia with lawn deck chairs and 5'8" wide receivers. Rondale Moore. Hollywood Brown wasn't there. Michael Wilson's a rookie. Trey McBride's been good this year, but still in his second year. The offensive line is abysmal outside of Paris Johnson Jr. The running backs, James Conner's good. He's still splitting some of his time with a undrafted free agent rookie in Amari DiMercado, and went into Philly, outdueled Jalen Hurts with bringing a plastic knife to a bazooka fight, if we're just talking stars, and beat the Philadelphia Eagles. For anyone that makes the jokes of, oh, he plays video games or oh, he's immature, you have not been watching Kyler Murray this year. I've watched every single press conference and every single game of Kyler this year. He is completely poised. He is completely vulnerable. He's respectful, and he's been an awesome leader, and he's been great with the media this year. All things that happen as you mature with age. I know it's so easy to look at a 22-year-old, look at a 23-year-old, look at a 24-year-old, and just judge them completely because they're young and dumb. I'm young and dumb. I still have a ways to go. But Kyler Murray, it has clicked for him this year. He's become a full-fledged adult, just like Baker Mayfield has. It's okay. Men mature at different ages. I know that's not okay for some of the fans of the NFL who are quick to judge like this. But Kyler Murray has been objectively awesome. And he played his best game coming off of a torn ACL. It took a couple of weeks. It was a little dicey. It was a little clunky. New offensive coordinator, new system. But let me just leave you with this as I quickly wrap up this quick Kyler Murray love letter. Kyler Murray was asked to carry the Arizona Cardinals. Cliff Kingsbury could not coach. The GM, Steve Keim, horrible evaluator of talent. Guess how many draft picks are left from that 2020 draft class from the old GM and front office? One player, Lecky Fotu, the backup defensive tackle. Kyler Murray was a life preserver. He was bailing water, and you'd be upset too if you worked at a company and you were an awesome employee, you were an awesome salesman, you were carrying the company on your back, and your boss was a complete buffoon, the owner of the company was a complete buffoon, i.e. Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim. They never put weapons around you. Outside of DeAndre Hopkins, there has not been a singular elite weapon placed aside Kyler Murray. James Conner's good. He's not a top 10 back in the NFL. His offensive line has always been abysmal. The play calling scheme has always been bad. Rondale Moore has not panned out like a lot of people thought he would, and he's mostly injured a lot of his time. His defenses were not very good. A.J. Green was looked as playable because of Kyler Murray. I know people like to make jokes about the video games and about the immaturity and about his height. But when bleep hits the fan, Kyler Murray is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And at his peak of his powers, he is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. And I have been banging that drum for weeks, years, months, decades at this point, it feels like. Yesterday, with his wide receiver, which I'm going to say his name and you don't even know who he is, Greg Dortch, Kyler Murray was 25 for 31, 232 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, 84 QBR, and 116 passer rating against Jalen Hurts, in which he had A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith for most of that game, DeAndre Swift, the way better offensive line, and a star-studded defense, and probably, at this point, a more reputable coaching staff. Now, I'm not sure how long that's going to stay, but a more reputable coaching staff for sure. Outplayed Jalen Hurts in his home building as an 11-point underdog. Kyler Murray is not only better than Jalen Hurts, especially at the peak of his powers, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And yesterday proved it, and I'm going to be early on this train. But by this time next year, we're going to be talking about a team competing for the NFC West crown. Because the San Francisco 49ers always struggle with him, even when he has nothing around him. And Kyler Murray, the world is going to see very soon with these Arizona Cardinals. They are a team to be reckoned with. Now let's talk about the inverse of what happened between that Arizona Cardinals beatdown of the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me just paint a picture for you. In just 28 days ago for the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts was the clear MVP favorite. The Eagles were 10-1, the 6th overall defense in the NFL, number 1 rushing defense in the NFL, number 4 rushing offense in the NFL, number 4 passing offense in the NFL. They were 10-1. The Eagles are now 11-5. I was one of those people that was banging the drum for the Eagles. Listen, I've always said it's important. Don't just stay on opinions just to stay on opinions. When new things come out, when we see what happens, when we get new information, just like a lot of smart sportscasters out there, you should absolutely change your opinion. The dumbest thing you can do is stay with an opinion just to stay with an opinion. But the Philadelphia Eagles, I said at one point, was the team to beat after 11 weeks, and they were the team to beat. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They were the team to beat in the NFL. And now, I'm flipping my opinion all the way on its head. The Philadelphia Eagles will be a one-and-done team in the NFL playoffs. You can't trust them. You just can't trust them. Jalen Hurts has regressed badly outside of yesterday, in which he was playing against 4th and 5th string cornerbacks who were letting up wide receivers like Julio Jones for touchdowns. The Eagles have regressed badly, and there's no leadership there. Jalen Hurts, people make jokes, but it's kind of true. He just pretty much says Instagram captions at his post-game pressers, is never really honest about what's going on. It's a little Russell Wilson with that aspect, where it's just too much rah-rah and not enough authentic things coming from your mouth. Nick Sirianni is still a child. He's acted like a child ever since he's been the head coach. He had a clunky first press conference. He hired 2 really smart coordinators to come with him in Jonathan Gannon, the now Arizona Cardinals head coach, and Shane Steichen, the now head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. And you wonder how much was actually propping up that franchise. Because without JG, it's a bottom third of the NFL passing defense. It's a middle of the pack sacks in the NFL, coming off of 70 last year, sacked 1 time yesterday, 41 sacks through 16 games, 1 more game to go, 17 sacks last year through 17 games. And then the offense looks completely different this year. And it's mostly the same offense, you would argue better. DeAndre Swift is back there. He was better than the running back they had back there before, who name is escaping me, on the Carolina Panthers, Miles Sanders. DeAndre Swift was seen as a much better back than him. Jalen Hurts is there. The wide receivers, Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, these are good wide receivers. The third wide receiver, at times is Julio Jones, who we've seen in spurts can be a nice possession receiver or score more touchdowns in the Eagles yesterday than he had in his entire time as an Atlanta Falcon, it felt like. But the Philadelphia Eagles are moving backwards. And it seriously makes you think about guys like Jalen Hurts. Is Jalen Hurts, is he a top 5, top 6 quarterback like most of us thought he was? I saw Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl outplay Patrick Mahomes for 3.5 quarters. And I wonder, what happened to that guy? And now he's got a fat contract extension that there is no getting off of. And they're going to have to move some pieces around. It's not going to be that second-round draft pick contract in which you're allowed to have 2 elite weapons, Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, DeAndre Swift, good offensive line, Kevin Byard back there on the defense, James Bradbury, you could afford to bring him back, although he is just a shell of himself. Darius Slay, you can have all those guys, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. You could have multiple of those guys, Hassan Reddick. Jalen Hurts' contract is going to kick in, and I am seriously considering if he's a top 10 quarterback without all those players. Because this year, he's easily been out of the top 5 quarterback conversation without Shane Steichen. So it makes you think, how much of that was Shane Steichen? Because Nick Sirianni, he's supposed to be an offensive head coach. I mean, he's more of a child. Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, acts more like an adult than the head coach, Nick Sirianni, who's cursing out Chiefs fans as he's walking out. Act like an adult, dude. Act like an adult. Act like you've been there before. You can act like the hard Eagles, Philadelphia, East Coast head coach all you want. That's fine. That's a shtick. That sticks. They're going to eat that up in Philly when you're winning. But when you're not, you look like a complete buffoon. Complete buffoon. A.J. Brown not speaking with the media. This team is in complete turmoil. There's a ton of turbulence going on. And this Philadelphia Eagles team that was once 10-1 and at the top of the NFL, they're going to be a one-and-done football team if they're not careful. And at this point, regardless of who they play in the playoffs, I don't care if it's a home game or not, and it's looking like they won't have a singular home game in the NFL playoffs. Looks like the Dallas Cowboys are going to win that division now. They are going to lose to whatever team they go play. The Buccaneers would beat them. The Buccaneers gave them fits the first time they played. They're going to beat them this time around. Baker Mayfield has been playing better than Jalen Hurts. Mike Evans, the weapons, Chris Godwin, those match up to the likes of A.J. Brown or a Devonta Smith. Rashad White's been good for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the defenses are mostly comparable. And those defensive backs, that Eagles defense that was so stout last year, it is bad. It's bottom third of the NFL bad. And if they're not careful, and if they don't right the ship soon, and I don't think they will, they're going to be a one-and-done football team. And there's going to be a lot of questions in Philly. Is Jalen Hurts the guy? Is Nick Sirianni the guy? Is Howie Roseman the guy? He's going to get looked at as well. After what was seen as an awesome draft, and mostly yes, but the contract for Jalen Hurts at this point that's going to kick in soon, people are going to ask questions about that, although I wouldn't get rid of Howie Roseman. But Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, there's going to be serious questions in Philly if they do become a one-and-done playoff team, and I absolutely believe they will be a one-and-done team come January, come the playoffs. Let's talk about a guy who has gotten more flowers than a pretty girl on Valentine's Day. Lamar Jackson has been sensational. He has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL as I continue to pull up his exact stats because I don't want to mess up anything when it comes to how good Lamar Jackson has been for the Baltimore Ravens. As yesterday, they walked into M&T Bank Stadium, their home stadium, and put a beatdown on the Miami Dolphins, 56-19. Lamar Jackson, 18 for 21, 321 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 picks, 95 QBR, and a perfect passer rating. You know, I tweeted this, and this takes me all the way back to last week where I didn't have a show. There was a lot of things going on. It just didn't happen. But Lamar Jackson at first, this time last week, went into San Francisco, into Santa Clara, as a touchdown underdog with a backup tight end in Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, a rookie wide receiver who has shown some promise, but also the drops at times, that's fair to say. Odell Beckham Jr., who has been good the past couple of weeks, but he's still not the same Odell Beckham that he used to be. Rashad Bateman, who has largely not really panned out as the first-round wide receiver they thought he would be out of Minnesota, and walked into Santa Clara as a touchdown underdog to Brock Purdy, in which everyone was clamoring he was the MVP, in which he had CMC, Kyle Shanahan, the better offensive coach, and it's not close, although John Harbaugh is a good coach, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, an all-pro left tackle, and crumbled in the likes of Lamar Jackson. That is what the difference was between Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy. He dismantled them. There was no argument on who the better quarterback was. Lamar Jackson went into San Francisco with less weapons and the worst offensive head coach and put a shellacking on the 49ers. And then Lamar Jackson, similarly, this week, although he was home and although he was favored by a couple of points, Tua Tagovailoa is a good quarterback. But when he has Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, a good left tackle in Armstead, the better offensive head coach in Mike McDaniel, it doesn't matter. The difference is the Grand Canyon. The difference between Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy and Tua Tagovailoa is the Grand Canyon. Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson are not close. It is not even in the same stratosphere. And then Tua Tagovailoa and Lamar Jackson. Tua, who is very similar to Brock Purdy to me in a lot of ways, it's the Grand Canyon. I have never been more wrong in a quarterback in Lamar Jackson. I don't know what it was. I thought I saw. But I'm always okay with being able to admit I was wrong. Absolutely being able to admit. You have to be willing to admit your mistakes if you ever want to get it right in this business. I was so wrong on Lamar Jackson. I mean, I didn't think he was a very good pure thrower of the football. That has completely changed. He's a great thrower of the football now. He has become a lethal runner, but not only a really good runner, but something Josh Allen has never picked up in his time in the NFL. It almost seems like Lamar Jackson's never getting hit. He never takes big hits. He picks and chooses his spots because he knows he's too freaking valuable to the Baltimore Ravens. People have been clamoring for weeks. Dak Prescott's the MVP. Brock Purdy's the MVP. No. Lamar Jackson's the MVP. And it's not close. It is not particularly close between those two quarterbacks and Lamar Jackson. He is carrying this franchise in a lot of different ways. The Baltimore Ravens are a good organization. They have a really good defense and a good head coach. But I should say he's carrying this offense. J.K. Dobbins is out. People forget about that. Out at the first game of the season, tore his Achilles. Mark Andrews breaks his leg, if I'm not mistaken. Brings in Isaiah Likely. It's fine. Just turn Isaiah Likely into a all-pro looking tight end. Rashad Bateman has had some spurts in which he's looked good and playable. Zay Flowers has turned into a really good deep threat for Lamar Jackson. And Odell Beckham Jr. having a career renaissance with the Baltimore Ravens. It's insane. It's a little bit Russell Wilson. I know people like to harp on Russell Wilson and rag on Russell Wilson and talk about how he's not a very good quarterback and it was all the system or whatever it was. But Russell Wilson in his time with the Seattle Seahawks was making guys like Colby Parkinson's look really good. Or Will Dissly at one point had like 8 touchdowns. Tyler Lockett was seen as a gadget wide receiver from Kansas. More of like or Kansas State. More of like a punt return specialist, a deep threat third or fourth wide receiver. He turned him into a legitimate number 2 wide receiver. DK Metcalf fell in the draft. My Arizona Cardinals took Andy Isabella from Grambling State over DK Metcalf. There was something with DK that just didn't work out. Russell Wilson made it work. So there's a credit to Russell Wilson there. Maybe it's the Seahawks culture. Maybe I'm giving Russell Wilson too much credit. But it's a little bit the same way with Lamar Jackson. He's never had elite weapons, ever. He's ever had elite weapons. And he's turned into an elite quarterback. And he's without a doubt, there's literally no arguing this anymore. He's a top 4 quarterback, maybe the 3rd best quarterback in the NFL. Some people would take Josh Allen over him. I wouldn't yet. My top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL go Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. My top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL now go Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. If anyone has anything different than those 4, you're just wrong. You're not understanding the game, or you have an agenda. And this is something I mentioned earlier in the year. I said there's a mystery team. I said it before the NFL season, and I said everyone is looking over. They're not looking at this team as a Super Bowl contender, and I said there is a dark horse Super Bowl contender that no one is looking at. No one is paying attention to. And I said it was the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. I said it was because of their weapons. Obviously, some of those are gone now, but I never understood the idea and ideology of passing up on Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens. It's a well-run organization with an elite-level quarterback now, a great defense, an elite defense at this point, and good enough weapons to get through. They're going to make the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson's going to win the MVP, and I believe that at the end of this season, they are going to be, and they absolutely will be, the Super Bowl champions of the 2023-2024 NFL season. Because Lamar Jackson is firmly in the spot of a top 4 quarterback in the NFL now after what he's done to Brock Purdy and Tua Tagovailoa and the San Francisco 49ers and the Miami Dolphins, just dismantling both of those teams with worse weapons, one of them as an underdog, one of them as a couple of point favorite, with a head coach that was a special teams coordinator. He was not an offensive guy, although John Harbaugh is a good head coach. Lamar Jackson has shellacked both those teams, and he separated himself, to which the MVP competition now, the MVP discussion, it's not even a discussion anymore. No one actually thinks that has a brain cell that Lamar Jackson is not the MVP. No one actually thinks, who's been watching the games, that Lamar Jackson is not the MVP. He's a solidified, bona fide top 4 quarterback in the NFL. He needs to exercise some of those demons in the playoffs, which I believe he will. But the top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL now, firmly, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Order them in any way you want. That's the way I would order them, but order them in any way you want. It's those 4 guys, the Grand Canyon, and then whoever the heck else. Lamar Jackson has separated himself this season, and he's going to win his 2nd MVP. That is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts for free on the iHeartRadio app, or you're watching here on YouTube. Maybe you're watching a bunch of my YouTube shorts that I've been making, that we've been making here at the Ben Garcia Show on the channel here. All we ask is that you like, share, subscribe, share the podcast with a friend. Please don't be too selfish. Don't keep all of these spicy, hot, good takes to yourself. But either way, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for all the success we had in 2023. We're going to continue to have it in 2024. We are going to keep on winning, and I'm excited for it. So thank you so much for making us a part of your day, however you've been watching, however you've been listening. And until next week, it's been the Ben Garcia Show.